Phone. I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone. They've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, and take out, just telling you.
There is no doubt about it. The left has decided to go after Tesla, not just the company, but individual vehicles. Am I right?
That's right. There have been a string of attacks on Tesla stores across the country. There have been fire bombings. And just the other day, I saw they're now releasing the location of individual Tesla owners across the country. So it's really a targeted campaign of, destruction and violence against anyone who owns a Tesla.
That's really terrifying. I mean, I see images on social media of people just randomly keying a Tesla. By the way, a lot of Tesla drivers would probably call themselves liberal or environmentalist. I mean, until 6 months ago, I think the Tesla brand was still pretty environmentalist, and now they've changed its public reputation. And they said, basically, if you want to hit back at Elon Musk and Donald Trump, hit back at any physical object in your vicinity. So you're victimizing an individual owner. Maybe you're victimizing an insurance company. But there's a political rationale for that attack. That really is one of the definitions of terrorism, isn't it? To have some sort of violence or threat of violence in service of a political motive. That's terrorism.
That is terrorism. And, people don't have to die for it to be terrorism. If, airplane hijackings back in the 1970s often had no deaths. Hostages were taken, but there were no deaths. It was still an act of terrorism. Mm-hmm. And, in the 70s, you also saw strings of bombings across the country, bombings of government buildings, bombings of monuments, statues. That was terrorism. Not all of the events had casualties. But when there's an organized campaign of violence and destruction, whether it's against property or anything else, that is for political reasons, that's terrorism. The definition of terrorism is violence for political purposes, and that's what we're seeing here. And it's also something that seems to be tacitly encouraged by some people. I saw a clip of Jimmy Kimmel laughing about the attacks on Tesla stores just yesterday.
Vandalizing Tesla vehicles, new Tesla vehicles. Please don't vandalize. Don't ever vandalize Tesla vehicles. And so...
So there seems to be no appetite for even condemning this on the part of the legacy media or the opposition to the Trump administration.
Yeah. I saw a startling video. I'm sure you did too. It went super viral. It was deported members of one of the most dangerous drug cartels, Tren de Agua, if I'm saying it right. I know I'm saying it wrong. They were recently classified by the Department of Homeland Security, and actually up here in Canada too, as a terrorist organization. So it was a drug cartel. Trump declared it a terrorist organization, and then they didn't just arrest and deport. I think they were largely Venezuelans. They took them to El Salvador, to the ultra high security mega prison. So they're not just in any jail. They're not just being deported home. They're in Nayib Bukele's mega prison. And it was such a dramatic video. It looked like it was from a James Bond movie or something. I don't know. And all I could think of was, wow, what a great way to move these prisoners beyond the reach of district judges who might want to overturn it. But mainly, as they would say, pour encourager les autres, to send a message to the others that if you come to America, you're going to have an extremely bad ending. Like, it was so shocking. The reason I mentioned that story, Allum, is because at least in that one case, and perhaps some others, perhaps some of his moves in the Middle East, Trump is signaling, don't mess with me. And so here's my question for you. Do you think that between Trump and his friendship with Elon Musk and the new FBI directors and the new Department Secretary, the Attorney General, do you think that the force of the United States police and perhaps others could be used to find out who's organizing and causing these, because I don't believe it's organic. I believe, like Antifa, it's funded and directed by sophisticated operatives. But I believe that if the NSA and the FBI and others were dispatched, they could actually crack the code here. It's a very, very long preamble, but here's my question. Is Trump going to fight back?
So there are two elements to what you said there. The first is there anyone funding it? Which is a very interesting question. I'll tell you one quick story on that point before I get to your second question. So an individual, you might have heard of an individual called Susan Rosenberg. She was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization. They were a far-left terrorist organization in the 70s and 80s, one of many far-left terrorist organizations in the 70s and 80s, carried out a string of bombings across the country. They even bombed the U.S. Senate in 1981. Anyway, the FBI caught her. She was in prison for a long time. Bill Clinton pardoned her on his last day in office. And then what does she do? She joins a foundation called the Thousand Currents Foundation as a VP. And that foundation goes on to fund Black Lives Matter, which were responsible, of course, for all the death, the violence and destruction and people getting killed even in the summer of 2020. So you can actually trace present-day unrest, present-day political violence back to the people who perpetrated political violence in the 70s and 80s. And again, that's a foundation that gives out grants, it funds organizations, and it had I think she's left now, but it had a former left-wing terrorist as a VP, which is incredible. So don't think for a second that any of these foundations that fund these left-wing causes are all opposed to political violence, and in at least one case they weren't. And to address your second question, and that goes into your second question, really, what's going to stop it? The only thing that will stop it, really, because it's being tacitly encouraged by people on the left, by people in the legacy media. The only thing that will really stop it is a unequivocal response from the authorities, from the FBI, from law enforcement. That'll be the only thing that'll actually deter these people, because they're perfectly happy to make heroes out of the perpetrators of violence. An excellent recent example is Luigi Mangione, the person who is accused of killing the United Healthcare CEO. He's a hero to many people on the political left. So, in the minds of many of these people, there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. And, when you're dealing with an attitude like that, then the only possible way to deter it is, a stern response from the authorities.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message, because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.